this is the view. Somebody raised their hand, but we're going to mute till we're going to.
Ed, I'm going to try to work with that, so I'll take care of it.
Okay. But this is where we stopped. One of my friends felt sick, so this is as far as we got. But this picture was very powerful, looking across at this big wall of mountains across from, I do have a pointer. Awesome. Can you see the pointer? Right there is Mount.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, see it.
That's Mount Carrigan. I asked my friend Brian Fowler, the geologist, why Carrigan was higher than Mount Bemis here, and he said it was a rock, a type of granite that was more resistant. Okay. Now I should be able to. Okay, here we go.
Oh, wow.
So this.
Greg.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, this is going up.
All right, we're back.
Mount Hedgehog, which I have a few pictures of here. It's like an old favorite on the Kank, Mount Hedgehog. And that's Mount Passaconaway in the background. So this was the middle of last winter when there was a lot of snow, a lot of people getting out. And that's near the top of Hedgehog with Mount Passaconaway in the distance. And there's no view quite like Mount Passaconaway from Hedgehog in the Whites. It's pretty monolithic kind of. I had some issues with my ankle and I was testing myself out going on longer hikes at that point and not going like to the top of Washington, but I went up to the base of the Huntington Ravine, and this is the Harvard Mountaineering Cabin, which is up near Huntington Ravine, and it's open in the winter. And this is the caretaker, Chris Wu, who's been up there a few years. And I wrote about him and in my column. And it used to be just exclusively for ice climbers, but now backcountry skiers stay there and hikers stay there, and there's still ice climbers staying there. So it's grown in popularity. And this is on the trail from the Harvard cabin up to Huntington Ravine. And it's following the fire road. And it's a great spot to look across the east side of Mount Washington to Bootsburg. And I've taken this photo when the wind was blowing, 100 miles an hour up there, and it's quite dramatic. This isn't it, but I've taken other photos right in this spot where the trees open up that are more dramatic. So this is the base of Huntington. That day, I just got halfway up the fan, I think. So at this point, the virus was, spring was coming and the shutdown, I think. And I was writing about local hikes for people to do to get out and keep their sanity. And this is on top of Whitehorse Ledge Trail, looking toward the Moat Range back here. And then coming down, doing a loop around the other side, you can get pretty close to the actual steeper part of Whitehorse, which is on the right-hand side. And then I loop down underneath it. That's the steep, if you're looking from town, this would be on the left side of the cliff where the steep section is and the overhangs. And this is half play and half serious, I guess. This is my friend Diane Johnson. I took her and her friend Chuck Cook, who used to be in charge of the food service at SIU 9, and I took them up to the Bowl Natural area in up between yeah. Anyway, I'm blanking out here. up between
Whiteface and Wanalance Mountain.
Thank you.
Pass the count away.
Yeah, thank you. So this is the Wanalancet Brook in the middle of the Bull Natural Area. And well, anyway, we bushwhacked up to some big trees and then down to Wanalancet Brook. And there's something about being on this brook way up in the trail, this Bull Natural Area, hiking down to it. You feel like you're on you feel like you're 1,000 miles from anywhere. It's a real, the atmosphere for me there is really striking. I don't know if it was for them, but it's a special place. And then you go over to the south-facing slope here on the left, and where the snow disappears earlier, and there's all these big deciduous trees, birches and maples, and they get to 250, 300 years old, and this is a birch, I think, which looks completely different from a younger birch, and they're just amazing up in there. And this is with her again on the Kelly Trail, which is also in you park in Wanalancet and in Ferncroft and go up the Kelly Trail, which is a mini gorge, which was scoured out because where the Kankamangas Highway is now, there was a post-glacial lake, and it was plugged up near Conway, near the Albany covered bridge, or above that, there was a big ice plug. So this lake rose where the Kankamangas Highway is, and it poured over Paugus Pass for maybe 20, 30 years and gouged out this gorge that you follow up on the Kelly Trail. So this is kind of in the middle of the little gorge, one of the beautiful spots on that trail. This is sometimes there's an unexpected view of a mountain from another one. This is from White Sledge in Albany, and way off in the distance is Mount Willie in Crawford Notch. From a unique perspective, usually when you're up in Crawford Notch, it's this long thing on your left side. But so it's kind of cool to see that from White Sledge, looking pointed. So this is with my friend Bob Bloomberg from Tamworth, going up the Skull Cairn Trail, which is a trail on Shikara that's been discontinued many years ago. And it's still okay to hike on it, but it's a pretty heavy fine to work on it. But it's a fun trail to go up, and there's some challenging spots. It was discontinued back in the 1940s at some point, maybe because there's a really steep section, almost a scramble up at one point. Halfway up the Skull Cairn, you get to this beautiful mountain tarn, which is a kind of a pot where water stays halfway up, a beautiful little pool. And every year, the wood frogs have a massive pile of eggs there. I talked to Chris Conrad about that, and he said, yeah, sometimes they all lay them in the same place. Well, every year up at this little pond on the Skull Cairn Trail, they do this. And so it's the second time I took this picture 2 years in a row. And there's Barb next to this beautiful little tarn halfway up the Skull Cairn Trail, which connects next to the Liberty Trail up above, and then it's still quite a way to the summit. So this is spring on top of Mount Shikarwa. And this is one of my favorite, for those Cold River camp folks here, this is going up South Ballface, and the green was just overwhelming that day. It was a little later in the spring. Looking toward Washington, the distance from the top of the South Ballface. This was actually on Cotter Ledge, but he didn't know that. Anyway, one of the greatest views 5 minutes from the trailhead is on Iron Mountain Trail up in Jackson. And in the 1800s, it was painted, this view was painted by a guy named John Enneking, who was one of the White Mountain School of Art. So he did a famous picture looking out toward Mount Washington and the valley here. So this is, you start across this field, then you go up a fairly dug out trail, an old trail that's in really bad shape. And then you get to the summit, which is wooded where there used to be a tower, but then you get down the other side. And you come to a V in the trail, and if you take the right hand V, you get to the south ledges, which is the best view on Iron Mountain. And it's a great place. So you have to climb this mountain and go down the other side to get the view. And it's called Iron Mountain for a reason. And if you go further down the south side, you get to where they used to dig magnetite out, iron ore out. And so another 15-minute walk down, you get to a lot of scree piles of magnetite, which is easily recognized. And this one tunnel, there could be another tunnel there, but I don't know where it is. So back in 1889, the history of Carroll County, it says, the ore on Iron Mountain is 75% pure and blast as easily as common stone. Sanders Company in England took 50 tons by ship and made the best quality iron and steel. 1889. That's when I'm not sure the date of the mine, that's the date of the history of Carroll County, I think, or maybe not, I'm not sure. Anyway, there was a bigger mine, so, economics, there were other mines to the west, over on the west side of the Whites, that were much bigger and much more productive, so this one didn't last that long. But they used to, from the south side, they used to carry, it's steep, and they used to come up from Jericho Road and Bartlett with mules, and they'd actually carry ore down on their backs too, because it was so steep. And this is a surreal picture, letting my camera do its thing inside the mine, looking out. The Ossipee Mountains down here is a great place. There's a really beautiful river that runs through it called the Lovell River. Lovell River. I'm not sure who it's named for, but there's no trails along it, but it's pretty well preserved by private land, I think, and I've done some fishing on it, and it comes out right near the Indian Mound Golf Course down on 16, and you just walk along it and you feel like you're way up in the White Mountains somewhere. And this is another Tamworth local quote treasure unquote, which is Millbrook. There's a few sections with the nurses group. We walked the lower section, and this is on an upper section up above that, where there's a horse trail, and there's a beautiful loop up there. This is one of my favorite trails on Speckled Mountain. The Speckled Mountain is right on the Maine-New Hampshire border. And to get to this Cold Brook Trail, you have to go to North Lovell and then go into Evergreen Valley and start up this trail called the Evergreen Link. And it hooks onto the Cold Brook Trail, and it goes up Speckled Mountain, which is a really massive mountain size-wise, not that high. It's not even 4,000 feet, but maybe 3,500. But it has like 5 or 6 big ravines on it, going in different directions. And why I like this trail is that going on your way up, you pass 3 or 4 of these open areas that are like balconies looking out over. And it's always been one of my favorite trails to do in the winter, because you're going up the south side, you're protected, your southeast side, you're protected from you're protected partially from the wind from the west. And so I've been up there on, when it's like 30 below and are close, and long time ago. I'm jumping around, and that's okay. This is on Mount Roberts in the Castle in the Clouds property. We went up there, me and a friend went up there to see if the wood lilies are out, which they usually come out in these upper meadows in July, but there were no sign of them this summer. It's an unusual summer and dry, and maybe that was the reason. I don't know. This is something unique if you've never seen it. The shortest trail to a presidential peak is Caps Ridge on Mount Jefferson. And you drive up to the top of Jefferson Notch Road, which is a high dirt road, and then start up. And in 1 mile, you come to this first lookout. And these are glacial potholes. So when the glacier was melting, 14,000 years ago, and right to the left here, there's a big wall of ice with water coming down on it and streams coming down off the glacier, hitting the rock. So that's what caused these potholes. There's no stream around to cause these potholes. They're up on a ridge. And this is continuing up Caps Ridge. It was cloudy on the, no, it was, I don't have a picture of the summit that day, but it's a pretty picturesque ridge. This rock is called the Littleton Formation and was originally on the bottom of an ocean and metamorphosized. And the whole presidential basically is that, and it wreaks havoc on Vibram soils. This is Nancy Cascade. I went up to Nancy and Knockross Ponds, which are in Crawford Notch, and halfway up the Nancy Pond Trail is this well-known cascade, and this whole area was blasted by the 1938 hurricane, and the trail was completely closed. It took them years to reopen it. But this is Nancy Pond, which is a true, high mountain pond. Beautiful place. And right next to it is Knockross Pond. They're in alignment, and then the water pours down into the Pemigewasset Wilderness. And this is in Knockross Pond. And I don't have a picture of the actual stream descending from Knockross Pond, but this is the view from the lookout right in the end of Knockross Pond, looking out over the Pemigewasset Wilderness and the Bonds and the Twins and all that. Beautiful view. Then on the way down, I passed, this is called the Lucy Mill. So the Lucys of Conway, after the 38 hurricane, they built a mill up there and they salvaged, hundreds and hundreds of trees that were down from the hurricane. Now this is typical Randolph Mountain Club thing. They kind of have their own language up there. This is the marked birch, believe it or not. And it's on the way into Ice Gulch. I was doing pretty good with my ankle and everything, and I wanted to test myself and go up Ice Gulch, which is one of the toughest trails to negotiate in the Whites. And because you follow this gorge up, this gulch up the side of Crescent Mountain. And it's basically boulder scrambling the whole way up. And this is a fascinating place because, again, north of here was a post-glacial lake and the Crescent Range. This is the Crescent Range. And the water poured over it for an extended period and gouged out this deep gorge which descends the mountain. And today, it has its own little microclimate because actually there's ice under these rocks that last all summer. And, alpine plants that only have a short season up on Mount Washington, bloom in August in here. And so this is another place similar. So this is what it looks like down at in the middle of Ice Gulch. It was very cool. It's a lower mean temperature there than the top of the presidentials, because, in the presidentials, it can be, 60 in the summer, but down here, it doesn't get in this deep gorge, it doesn't get very high temperature. And this is August. And I passed, half a dozen visible ice chunks. And this is back in Tamworth. This is Whiteface, the Blueberry Ledge Trail on Whiteface. There's a spot where you're kind of looking out. You're not actually going right up there, but you are scrambling on something that steep at that point. And in the distance is Shikarawa, and on Mount Paugus, the south side of Mount Paugus has this big scar of rotten granite, which you can't see from Wanalancet because it's hidden from view by a ridge in between. But it's caused by if there's potash in the granite, it's unstable, and it dissolves, and it causes the granite to fall apart. So you get a really good view down into the Bowl Natural area up on Blueberry Ledge Trail and Whiteface. And this is the zoom of a ledge down in the Bowl Natural area, which is a place that's never been logged. And a few years previous, I bushwhacked down next to it, down through the bowl. So I wanted to get a picture of it. And if you just walk right across the ridge from where I took that, you see this. This is the big, why it's called Whiteface. There's a big white scar, white cliff on its south side. And the distance is Flat Mountain Pond. And last year, the dam on the end of Flat Mountain Pond burst. It was really in sad shape. And I hadn't heard whether the Forest Service had built another one. And when I saw this, I said, "Oh wow, maybe they built another one because there's water in there." But I asked somebody, and no, they hadn't built one yet, and there was still some water in there. So there's no dam yet, I don't think, on Flat Mountain Pond. Here is this August. This is some of when the Tamworth nurses, I volunteered to lead some hikes for the Tamworth nurses for physical and mental health, and it's called Hiking with Friends, and it's advertised on the Tamworth Exchange, and it's been really popular and really great. And John Watkins in front here has been an integral part of it. His family has had a place on Shikarawa Lake since the 1940s, and he's a brilliant doctor who's retired and knows everything about the area. So he's always comes along. This is my friend Bill Nagahiro from Conley, who came on that one, and the rest of you know who you are. Anyway, and there's a big rock in the Shikarawa Conservation Lands, which actually it's the same Kuiper rock that's up on the top of Shikarawa. So it's thought that, when the glacier was receding and those rocks were already broken up and had cracks, that this thing tumbled down from near the top of Shikarawa. So there's our group that day. We were going from here and hiking up Bickford Heights and back to Heron Pond. And one of the group on top of the rock. This is an interesting ledge. It's called B&M Ledge, Boston and Maine Ledge. I'm not sure if the railroad actually quarried there. They might have. It's just south of 16 in Conway. And this is a unique view of it on some trails owned by Mike Hathaway, who is a hypnotist in Madison and has an extensive trail system above his office that you can park and walk on. And there's a great viewpoint up there. And so this was a unique view of B&M Ledge. This is called Province Pond, which is over it's in Chatham, I think. It's a fairly easy walk in on an old road. And there's a shelter there, which is really popular. Sitting in the shelter looking out. The day I went up there, there was a notice at the beginning of the trailhead for keep your dogs leashed because there were nuisance beavers at the pond. So I called up Jessie Dubois, who's the wildlife biologist at Saco Ranger Station. And earlier that summer, she had pulled out one of the boards in the dam and the spillway at Province Pond. And she did that. She's a wildlife biologist and she promotes wildlife. And when she pulled out the spillway, the water would go down and there'd be more food and vegetation along the shore. Well, two juvenile beavers came along and dammed up the spillway, and they've continued to do so. And the water has risen, and it's risen a little over the dam, and it's spilling down on the trail. And in the winter, it combines. It's a snowmobile trail. It's at a really interesting curve right there. And if there's ice there, the snowmobiles are going to go crashing into the woods. So it's her responsibility to find to get rid of the beaver, and the habitats did not work. She tried a couple times with habitats, and they didn't work. So she's been talking to the local trappers to see if they can help to get rid of this danger. I hadn't been around White Lake in a while in Tamworth, and a few weeks ago I went there and saw a loon in winter plumage already, which is cool to see. You really see them in winter plumage, I think, on the lakes. But here he is. And this is going around White Lake and foliage time. And from the beach, the wind was howling on the beach and right toward me. And first snow on the Sandwich Range. This is a place I wouldn't have, unless I was looking for hikes for the nurses group, I might not have gone here. Let's see, what's it called? Jackman Ridge Lookout, over above Camp Calumet. And the trail starts in the Pine Barrens, owned by the Nature Conservancy. There's a cool lookout called looking out over Ossipee Lake. And we took the trail from the Pine Barrens up there, and it was a very pleasant day. There's a group up there on the ledges. And going that hardwood forest, there were a lot of big tooth aspens, and it just was like a yellow brick road. And this is another picture of the group on the shore of Great Hill Pond. We didn't go near the boat landing, and this is in Tamworth. We went around the backside on snowmobile trails and out to a place that I had found before where you could sit by the water. Right to our right, it was an unobstructed shore view of Great Hill Pond. This was early in the summer when things were getting better with COVID, but and sometimes we hiked without masks, but those days are over for now. This is kind of funny. My friend Bob Gordon, who I've hiked with for years, we wanted to go further distance to some neat small hikes. And I found out about this place up in Waterford, Maine, called 5 Keezer Ponds Preserve, owned by the Greater Level Land Trust. And Bob wanted to go up there. There was reportedly great views from this little ridge top overlooking the 5 Keezer Ponds, which are different from Keezer Pond. The name Keezer in Levels, there was a trapper in the mid-1800s named Keezer. But so it was a weird day, you know, it was like fog was rising in the morning and there was like rain in the afternoon. So we took a chance. We thought we could get a view and we didn't. And it was like an hour and a half drive. So we decided to go back on a good day. So this is one of the views from 5 Keezer, from Little Ridge on 5 Keezer Ponds Preserve. You know, my friend Bob's an artist, and I said, you know, if you painted this lake, no one would believe you because it's such a odd shape. Right down here in the distance is Mount Tom down in Freiburg. And Bob's dog, Champney, he has a Tibetan Terrier named Champney, and he was 13 years, he had a birthday that day. He was 13 years old. He's hiked with Bob his whole life. And so Bob bought this dog treat for your paws only. And so on the summit, we gave Champney the treat that day. It was kind of we had kind of an epic on the way down. But Champney is getting a little hard of hearing. And at one point, he took off with some woman that were in front of us, and then he went in the woods, and we kind of lost him for a while. And we're yelling, Bob's yelling, he didn't come, you know, and suddenly we're realizing we might be here a long time into the night. And Bob's blood pressure went up, and suddenly we heard Champney started barking, and he was uphill. So I ran uphill, and there he was on the trail where we had last seen him. So that was a relief. and this barred owl wasn't paying attention to us at all. This is a foray up on Chikarawa when it was icy up there. I didn't bring microspikes, so I got a little further than this and turned around, but it was a nice picture. Just progressions of seasons. And this is back on Mount Hedgehog a couple weeks ago. It was a chilly, or a week and a half ago, something like that. It was a chilly day, but nice. And this is a zoom looking toward, this is called Green's Cliff. There's no trail up there, but there must be herd paths that the climbers use because it's popular with climbers. And these are called Anderson and Lowell. They're 2 peaks with no trails. Carrigan Notch and Gold Spur on Mount Carrigan. And the loop on Hedgehog, you swing around below and you pass these interesting cliffs. Oh, I didn't no, it doesn't matter. There was another picture of the monolithic view of Passaconaway from the South Ledges, but I didn't put that in, I guess. Back in 2019 or 18, I forget which, the new Maine Mountain Guide came out, which was twice as thick as the old one. And I saw a couple hikes that I wanted to write about down over in Maine. And one was called Sawyer Mountain. And what attracted me to it was in the mid-1800s, they had a whale oil lamp on the summit to guide ships into Portland Harbor up there. And so it's like halfway to the ocean or more from here. And it doesn't seem that far, but because it's all flat between there and the ocean. So they would have a light on the shore and then the light on the mountain, and they'd align them and be able to go into the harbor. So I went over there by myself one day. I had been there before with a friend, and we only had time to get halfway up. So I went by myself and went up this, I forget the name of the trail. But it's an interesting, it was certainly not wilderness, but wild. There was a road an old road that went over a ridge from Limerick to Leamington. And along that old road, not used anymore, was the Sawyer family homestead with a really gigantic foundation. And further up near the summit, so Auten Sawyer, Autien Sawyer, was the grandson of William Sawyer. And Auten had a daughter named Lulu, and she carved her name in the rock up near the summit in the early 1900s. And I've had some people interested in wanting to know. I put this picture on Facebook, and people wanted to know more about it. So, so actually on the summit, it's mostly grown in, so the view of the ocean wasn't like it used to be. But it was interesting. It was neat to go over there and explore. This is kind of looking southwest from the summit. And then on the old Sawyer Mountain Road, I took this picture, which a lot of people have liked, of just ruts from from off-road vehicles, I guess, and the ice. A little abstract picture, just the road, just the Sawyer Mountain Road. Just last week, I went with the Tamworth nurses group to Great Falls over off of Bennett Street in North Sandwich, and it was quite the day. It was raining. We had 5 stream crossings and 5 back. And this is Jim Diamond taking a picture of the falls. And this is getting across one of the streams. John Watkins, who didn't really need much help getting across. Some people are helping him there get across one of the streams. And it rained. Ooh. Although interesting, it says your battery is running low, so this is good timing here. The other day I hiked up Eastman Mountain over in Evans Notch, and to get a view of South Ballface from Eastman. And this is a zoom of the summit of Mount Washington from Eastman. You can see the buildings and everything. And this is looking down into Evans Notch. And that's looking south toward, Sandwich Range in the distance. And this tree grabbed my hat, and I took this picture of a hat snatching tree. And this is Mount Chikara a few days ago with the sun peeking through. So that's it. Okay, yeah. Great, thanks. Oh, okay. So that's it.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So those potholes that were way up, they were not formed by swirling rocks in water, but by rocks being thrown against rocks?
No. They were there were streams coming down off the melting glacier, and so
okay.
swirling water. Yeah.
Okay, it was swirl. I couldn't understand.
But they were nowhere near any modern stream because they're up on a ridge. So it's
cool.
But, so Amy